The sky was dark with heavy clouds, and the air smelled of ash and sorrow. An alien funeral was not like a human one. Here, the body was placed on a stone altar, and fire consumed it until nothing was left but glowing dust. The people of the village stood in silence, watching the flames rise high, while the wind carried the smoke into the night. At the edge of the crowd stood a little alien girl. Her skin carried a faint silver glow, a sign of her father's bloodline. She clutched the edge of her small cloak, her eyes fixed on the burning altar. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she did not move. She did not make a sound. Her heart felt heavy, like a stone sinking into the deepest part of the sea. Her father was gone. The only person who had loved her, protected her, and called her his daughter was gone forever. Beside her stood the woman who was supposed to be her family now, her stepmother. But her stepmother's eyes were cold, hard, and empty. She did not look at the fire with sorrow. She looked at it with impatience, as if waiting for the ritual to end. When the last spark burned out and the wind carried the ashes away, the stepmother turned to the girl. "You have no place in my home," she said. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the silence like a blade. "Your father is dead, and you are nothing to me." The girl looked up in shock. Her lips trembled, but no words came. She had hoped for comfort, for a hand to hold in this lonely moment. Instead, she felt the cruel sting of rejection. The stepmother raised her hand and pointed to the road beyond the village. "Go. Leave this place. You will not return to my house. You will not eat my food. You will not sleep under my roof." Gasps rose from the crowd. Many of the villagers turned their faces away, unwilling to meet the girl's eyes. They had seen cruelty before, but this was different. This was a child, small and fragile, thrown away like a broken tool. The little alien girl fell to her knees. Her voice finally broke free, soft and shaking. "Please! I have nowhere to go." The stepmother's face hardened. "Then you will learn. The world is not kind. Better you learn now than later. You are weak, and I will not carry weakness in my house." Her words burned worse than the fire on the altar. The child lowered her head, her tears falling into the dust. The crowd remained silent. No one moved to help. Fear held them still. The stepmother was powerful, and her words carried weight. To defy her meant trouble, and no one wished to share the child's fate. But then, from the edge of the gathering, a voice broke the silence. "Enough." The word was firm, clear, and filled with strength. The people turned to see who had spoken. It was not one of their own. It was a human. He stood tall, his face lit by the fading fire. His eyes were calm, but there was anger hidden beneath. His clothes were travel-worn, marked by dust and distance. No one knew why he had come to this world, but now he stepped forward without fear. He looked at the stepmother first, his gaze steady. "You dishonor the memory of the man who lies in ash. He gave you his trust, and this is how you repay it?" The stepmother narrowed her eyes. "This is none of your concern, human. Stay out of matters you do not understand." But he did not step back. Instead, he turned to the little girl. She looked up at him with wide, tear-filled eyes, unsure if she could trust him. He knelt down so he could meet her gaze. His voice softened. "You are not alone. Do not believe her words. You still have worth. You still belong." The girl's lips trembled again, but this time it was not from fear. It was from hope. His words touched something deep in her heart, something that had almost died with her father. The stepmother's voice cut in, sharp and mocking. "You would take her? You think you can care for her? She is a burden, a mouth to feed, a curse from her bloodline. She will only bring ruin to anyone who carries her." The human stood again, his voice steady and unshaken. "Then let that ruin fall on me. If the world turns against her, it will find me standing in its way." The crowd stirred, whispers passing from one villager to another. They had never seen such defiance, especially from a human. But there was no doubt in his voice, no weakness in his stance. The stepmother's lips curled into a bitter smile. "You are a fool. You know nothing of her kind. Maybe, the human said. His eyes remained on the girl, not on the stepmother. But I know this. No child deserves to be cast aside in the shadow of grief. Not while I still breathe. The little alien girl's tears slowed. For the first time since her father's death, she felt the faint warmth of safety. She reached out, her small hand trembling, and placed it in his. The stepmother turned away in disgust, but her voice carried a final warning. Take her, then. And may the weight of her curse be yours to bear. The human ignored her. He lifted the girl gently, holding her close. His voice was low, meant only for her. I will not let you fall. You will not be alone again. The night wind blew across the ashes of her father, carrying them into the stars. The crowd watched in silence, their hearts unsettled. For in that moment, something greater than cruelty had been born. A bond between a human and an alien child, forged in fire, sorrow, and defiance. And though none of them knew it yet, this bond would change the fate of more than one world. The night stretched long after the funeral fire had died. The human carried the little alien girl in his arms, walking slowly down the narrow path that led away from the village. The air was cool, but the warmth of his body shielded her from the cold. She clung to him quietly, her face buried against his chest. Her tears had stopped, but her silence spoke louder than any cry. He looked down at her and spoke in a calm voice. You are safe now. Whatever comes, I will stand with you. The girl's small voice broke the silence. Why did you help me? You do not even know me. The human paused. The question carried weight. He thought of his own past, the nights when he too had been left with nothing. He thought of the faces that had turned away when he begged for mercy, and the hands that never reached out for him. His jaw tightened as the memory returned, sharp and bitter. Because, he said softly, I know what it feels like to be alone. No one deserves that. Not you. The girl lifted her head. Her wide silver eyes shimmered faintly in the starlight. But I am weak. My stepmother said I am nothing. Maybe she is right. He stopped walking and looked directly into her eyes. His tone was gentle, yet unshakable. She is wrong. You are not nothing. You are alive. You are worth more than she will ever understand. For a moment, the girl's lips trembled, caught between doubt and belief. The kindness in his words felt like sunlight breaking through heavy clouds. They reached a quiet meadow where the ground was soft, and the stars stretched wide above them. He set her down gently, then sat beside her. The fireflies of this alien world glowed in the tall grass, filling the night with small sparks of light. The human took a slow breath. What is your name? She lowered her eyes. Liara. He nodded. Liara. That is a strong name. Do not let anyone take that strength from you. She tilted her head, studying him. And you? What do they call you? He gave a faint smile. Daniel. The girl repeated it carefully, as if testing the weight of it. Daniel. Hearing his name spoken by her gave him an unexpected warmth. For years, his name had meant little, lost in the dust of wandering. But here, from her lips, it felt alive again. Liara hugged her knees close and looked up at the stars. What will happen to me now? I have no home. No family. No place. Daniel's gaze followed hers to the stars. His voice carried quiet strength. Home is not only walls and roofs. It is the people who stand beside you. From this night forward I will be your home. I will be your family. As long as I breathe, you will have a place. Liara's chest tightened with emotion. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not since her father. She wanted to believe, but fear still whispered in her heart. What if the others come for me? My father's enemies. My stepmother. What if they hurt you because of me? Daniel placed his hand over hers, steady and warm. Let them try. I have faced storms greater than this, and I am still standing. I do not fear them. You should not fear them either. You are not alone anymore. The girl's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were not only of grief. They carried hope, fragile yet real. she whispered. Why do you care so much? You could have walked away. Daniel's voice grew heavier, more personal. Because someone once walked away from me. I swore I would never do the same to another soul. Especially not a child. The silence that followed was deep, broken only by the hum of the night. Liara leaned closer, resting against him once more. She did not fully understand him, but she felt the truth in his words. His promise was not made lightly. It carried the weight of his own pain, and the strength of his heart. Daniel looked out across the dark horizon. In his mind, he saw danger waiting. He knew the stepmother would not simply let things end. And if Liara truly carried the bloodline of her father, then more eyes would be watching her, eyes filled with greed and fear. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. But he also knew this. He would not let go of her hand. He turned to Liara once more. His voice was low, almost a vow whispered to the stars. I will protect you. Even if the whole galaxy rises against us, you will not fall. That is my promise. Liara's small fingers tightened around his hand. For the first time since her father's death, she felt safe enough to close her eyes. The fireflies danced around them like small guardians, and the stars shone brighter above. A bond had been formed that night, one built not by blood, but by choice. And that choice would carry them both into a future filled with danger, hope, and a love that defied the cruelty of the universe. The night faded into dawn. The first light of the sun stretched across the alien sky, painting it with shades of gold and silver. Daniel woke before Liara, his eyes scanning the horizon with quiet caution. He was used to mornings like this, waking in strange lands, never knowing what might come with the rising sun. Beside him, Liara still slept, her small frame curled against the soft grass. She looked peaceful, but even in sleep, her face carried traces of sorrow. Daniel felt a weight in his chest as he watched her. No child should carry such pain. He stood slowly, careful not to wake her, and walked to a small stream nearby. The water shimmered with strange colors, reflecting the alien sky. He washed his hands and face, then bent to drink. The cool taste cleared his mind. Yet his thoughts did not rest. He remembered his own past. Years ago, when he was young, he too had been left alone after loss. His own people had turned away from him, treating him as if his grief was a burden they could not bear. He had wandered then, searching for something, someone, who might understand. But no one had come. He had learned to survive alone. Now, looking at Liara, he felt those old wounds stirring again. But this time, there was a difference. This time, he could be the one to stand where no one else would. He could be the hand that never reached him. Behind him, Liara stirred awake. Her silver eyes blinked against the morning light. She sat up slowly and looked around, her voice small. Are we going to keep walking? Daniel nodded. Yes. We cannot stay too close to the village. It is not safe. Your stepmother may return, and others may come who wish you harm. Liara lowered her gaze. Father had enemies. He said one day they would come for him. But now he is gone, and they will come for me instead. Daniel crouched in front of her, his expression steady. Then they will have to go through me first. Liara looked at him, her lips parting as if to speak, but then she closed them again. She could not find the words. Instead, she simply nodded and rose to her feet. They walked together across the fields, the morning wind brushing against them. Daniel kept his senses sharp, his eyes scanning the land. He felt it deep in his bones. Danger was not far. By midday, they reached the edge of a forest. The trees were tall and strange, their leaves glowing faintly in the light. The air was cool and heavy with mist. Daniel led the way, guiding Liara carefully along the narrow path. But even as they walked, he could feel it. The silence was too heavy. The forest held its breath. They were being watched. He slowed his steps, his voice calm but firm. Liara! Stay close to me. The girl moved closer, clutching his arm. Her eyes darted to the shadows between the trees. Shapes seemed to move there, faint but real. She whispered. They are here. Daniel tightened his grip on the small knife he carried. It was not much, but it was all he had. His heart beat steady, his voice low. I know. A rustle broke the silence. Then another. From the shadows stepped figures cloaked in dark armor, their faces hidden behind masks. Alien hunters. Their eyes glowed faintly from beneath their helmets. They moved with precision, surrounding Daniel and Liara in a wide circle. One of them spoke, his voice metallic and cold. Hand over the child. She carries blood that does not belong to her. She has no right to live. Daniel's stance hardened. He stepped in front of Liara, shielding her with his body. His voice cut through the mist. She is not yours to take. The hunter tilted his head. You are human. You have no stake in this matter. Leave, and we may spare you. Daniel shook his head slowly. No. You will not touch her. Not while I stand. A low laugh spread through the hunters. They raised their weapons, long blades shimmering with energy. Liara clutched Daniel's cloak, her eyes wide with fear. Daniel leaned slightly toward her, his voice firm but calm. Do not let go of me. No matter what happens. The hunters lunged. The forest exploded with motion. Daniel moved fast, striking with raw strength, blocking the first blade with his knife. Sparks flew. He twisted, pushing one attacker back, then kicked another to the ground. But there were too many. They came from every side, weapons flashing. Daniel fought like a man possessed, his body moving with a will stronger than steel. He took cuts to his arms, his shoulder, but he did not fall. Every strike he made was fueled by the promise he had given Liara. The girl watched with terror and awe. Daniel bled, but he stood tall, refusing to yield. Her small heart pounded. She had never seen such courage. At last, one hunter fell back, his mask cracked. Another dropped his blade and stumbled away. The rest hesitated, shaken by the human's fury. For a moment, silence fell again. The leader hissed, his voice sharp with rage. This is not over. We will return. The child cannot hide forever. With that, the hunters vanished into the mist, their shapes melting into the forest shadows. Daniel dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Blood ran down his arm, staining the ground. But his eyes stayed sharp. He turned to Liara, forcing a faint smile. Are you hurt? She shook her head quickly, tears running down her cheeks. No. But you are. Daniel wiped the blood from his arm and stood again, though his legs trembled. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Do not fear. They did not take you. They will never take you. Not while I live. Liara's chest ached as she looked at him. She wanted to cry, but something else filled her heart instead. It was not fear. It was something stronger. Trust. For the first time, she believed his promise. And in the shadows of the forest, unseen eyes continued to watch. Enemies were gathering, and the bond between a human and a little alien girl was about to be tested like never before. The forest held its silence after the hunters disappeared. The mist curled around the trees, carrying the smell of blood and fear. Daniel leaned against a trunk, breathing hard, his hand pressed against his wounded arm. Liara stood beside him, her small hands trembling. She wanted to speak, but her voice refused to rise. She only looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. Daniel gave her a faint smile, trying to ease her worry. It is all right. I am still standing. But he knew the truth. That fight had been only the beginning. The hunters would return, and next time they would not come alone. They pressed deeper into the forest, searching for shelter. Hours passed, the light of day fading into the red glow of dusk. Finally, they found a cave hidden beneath the roots of an ancient tree. Daniel led Liara inside and built a small fire from fallen branches. The warm light pushed the shadows back, giving them a fragile sense of safety. Liara sat close to the fire, hugging her knees. She looked at Daniel, her voice soft. Why do they want me? Why do they hate me so much? Daniel sat across from her, cleaning the blood from his arm with strips of cloth. He thought carefully before answering. Your father was a strong man. Strong enough to make enemies. They fear his bloodline, and you carry it. That is why they hunt you. Her eyes filled with tears again. Then maybe I should not live. If I am the reason, maybe it is better if I... Stop. His voice cut sharp, firm enough to make her freeze. He leaned closer, his eyes locked on hers. Do not ever say that again. Your life has meaning, Liara. More than you can see now. They fear you not because you are weak, but because of the power you may one day hold. And I will not let them take that from you. The words wrapped around her heart, giving her strength. She lowered her head, whispering, Then I will trust you. Daniel gave a small nod. That is enough. Trust is stronger than any weapon. But even as he spoke, the forest stirred again. The fire crackled, but beneath the sound came another. A rustle. A step. The faint shift of shadows just beyond the cave's mouth. Daniel's hand went to his knife at once. His voice dropped low. Liara! Stay behind me. The girl moved quickly, hiding behind his back. Her eyes stayed fixed on the cave entrance, where the mist began to twist unnaturally. Then they came. Dozens of hunters stepped out of the fog, more than before. Their armor gleamed faintly in the firelight, their blades glowing with energy. The leader stepped forward, his mask cracked from Daniel's earlier strike, but his eyes burned with rage. You defied us once, human, the leader hissed. You will not survive a second time. Give us the child, and we may grant you a clean death. Daniel rose slowly to his feet. He was tired, bloodied, and outnumbered, yet his stance did not waver. His voice carried calm defiance. If you want her, you will have to kill me first. And even then, I promise, I will not make it easy. The hunters let out a chorus of cruel laughter. Then they moved. The cave exploded with violence. Blades clashed, sparks flew, and the sound of steel against steel echoed through the forest. Daniel fought with raw fury, his body moving with desperation and will. Every strike, every block, every wound he took was for Liara. He had no armor, no advanced weapon, only his knife and his determination. Yet he stood like a wall of iron. Two hunters lunged at once. Daniel caught one by the wrist, twisted until bone cracked, then turned the blade against the second. Another charged from behind, but Daniel spun and kicked him hard, sending him crashing against the stone wall. Still, they pressed harder. A blade cut deep into his shoulder. He gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. Blood ran down his side, but he fought on. Behind him, Liara trembled. She wanted to help, but fear locked her in place. She could only watch as Daniel bled for her. The leader stepped forward, pushing through his fallen warriors. His blade glowed brighter than the rest. He swung at Daniel with brutal force, the strike shaking the cave. Daniel blocked, but the impact drove him to one knee. The leader raised his blade again, ready to end him. Liara's heart screamed. In that instant, something inside her broke free. A faint light rose from her skin, glowing brighter with every beat of her heart. Her silver eyes burned with sudden fire. The hunters froze, stunned by the glow. The leader hesitated, his blade hovering above Daniel. Daniel glanced back at Liara, his breath ragged. For a moment, he forgot the pain. She was shining, her small body radiating energy that filled the cave. The hunters stepped back, fear flashing in their eyes. The leader hissed. No. It cannot be. The bloodline lives. Liara raised her trembling hands. The light spread, pushing against the hunters like a wave. They stumbled, shields breaking under the force. Some turned and fled into the forest, their courage shattered. Daniel seized the chance. With a roar, he struck the leader across the chest, driving him out of the cave and into the dirt. The leader fell back, gasping in rage, before vanishing into the mist with the others. Silence returned. Daniel dropped to his knees, his body shaking, his knife slipping from his hand. Blood stained his chest, his arms, his face. Yet he was still alive. Liara rushed to him, her glow fading. She clutched his arm, her voice breaking. Do not leave me! Please, Daniel. Do not leave me. He raised his hand weakly and brushed her cheek with his fingers. His voice was faint, but steady. I told you, Liara. I will not let go. Not now. Not ever. Her tears fell on his hand, but for the first time, they carried hope instead of despair. In the heart of the forest, a human had faced death for a child not his own. And that night, their bond was no longer just a promise. It was a shield strong enough to defy the galaxy itself. The forest was quiet after the battle, but it was not the calm of peace. It was the silence of fear. The hunters had fled, yet their shadows seemed to linger among the trees. Daniel sat against the stone wall of the cave, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. Blood still marked his wounds, and his strength was fading. Liara knelt beside him, her small hands pressed against his arm as if her touch alone could hold him together. Her eyes were wide, still glowing faintly from what had happened moments before. She whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel, what was that? What happened to me? He looked at her with tired eyes. The glow around her had dimmed, but he could still feel its warmth in the air. He gave a slow shake of his head. It was you, Liara. Something inside you woke up. It saved us. Her lips trembled. But I do not understand. I did not try. It just came. Daniel reached up, placing a blood-stained hand gently on her shoulder. Power often shows itself when we are pushed to the edge. You were afraid for me. That fear became strength. Tears gathered in her eyes. Then it is true. I am cursed. That is why they want me. Daniel's voice grew firm, even as weakness pulled at him. No. Do not call it a curse. Power itself is not evil. What matters is the heart that carries it. And your heart, Liara, is good. Her chest tightened at his words. She wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her. She remembered her stepmother's voice, cold and cruel, telling her she was nothing but a burden. Now, with this strange light burning inside her, she feared the woman's words might be true. Daniel tried to stand, but his legs trembled. Liara quickly wrapped her arms around him, helping him stay steady. Her small frame shook under his weight, yet she refused to let go. Rest, she pleaded. You are hurt. Please rest. Daniel let out a faint breath, half a laugh, half a sigh. You sound like your father must have. Always watching over others. Liara's heart ached. She had tried so hard to remember her father's warmth, but grief blurred the memory. Yet here, in Daniel's presence, some of that warmth returned. She guided him to lie down beside the fire. The glow of the flames lit his face, showing the lines of exhaustion, the blood that refused to stop. She pressed her small hands over his wounds, tears spilling down her cheeks. Do not leave me, Daniel. I cannot lose you too. As her tears touched his skin, something strange happened. The faint glow in her body stirred again, rising from her hands. Light spread over Daniel's wounds. He felt warmth flood through him, not burning, but healing. The pain lessened. The bleeding slowed. His breath grew steadier. Liara gasped, pulling back in shock. I healed you. Daniel looked at his arm, where the gash had begun to close. He stared at her, awe in his eyes. You are more than you know, Liara. This is no curse. This is a gift. A gift that others will fear, yes, but one that can save lives. She shook her head, trembling. If they find out, they will never stop hunting me. He reached for her hand, holding it firmly. His voice was calm but unbreakable. Then let them hunt. We will not run forever, but we will not bow to them either. Power is only dangerous when it is used by the cruel. In your hands it can bring hope. Liara lowered her gaze, her small hand tightening around his. You believe in me. Even when I do not believe in myself. Daniel gave her a faint smile. That is what family does. And I told you, I am your family now. Her tears fell freely then, not of despair, but of something new, something she had not felt since her father's last breath. She pressed her forehead against his arm, whispering softly, Then I will not be afraid any more. Not if you are with me. The night passed slowly, but Daniel's strength began to return. Liara kept watch while he rested, her glowing eyes fixed on the forest beyond the cave. The power inside her still frightened her, but she held on to Daniel's words. She was not cursed. She was not nothing. She was more. When dawn came again, Daniel rose to his feet, steadier than before. The light of the sun poured through the trees, falling across Liara's silver hair. She looked at him with quiet determination. "What happens now?" she asked. Daniel adjusted his cloak and tightened his grip on his knife. His voice carried strength once more. "Now we move forward. We find a place where you can be safe, and where you can learn to control the power inside you. Because one day, Liara, you will not only defend yourself. You will defend others too." She looked up at him, her fears slowly turning into resolve. The hunters would come again, she knew. Her stepmother would not stop. The shadows of the past would not release her easily. But now she had something she had not before. A hand to hold. A promise to believe in. A reason to fight. And deep within her, the hidden power stirred once more, waiting for the moment when the galaxy itself would tremble at the light of a child no one believed in, except for a human who refused to let her fall. Days passed as Daniel and Liara moved deeper into the wilderness. The forest gave way to rocky valleys, and the valleys opened into plains filled with tall silver grass that swayed like waves in the wind. Each step carried them farther from the village, yet danger never felt far behind. Daniel kept watch with sharp eyes. The wounds on his body had healed more quickly than he expected, thanks to Liara's hidden gift. But the memory of the hunters weighed on him. He knew they would return, and with them, greater threats. Liara walked close to his side. She no longer clung in fear like before. There was still uncertainty in her heart, but Daniel could see the spark of determination beginning to grow within her. She asked questions about the stars, about the places humans came from, about courage and strength. And every time she asked, Daniel answered with patience. But even as hope grew between them, shadows moved elsewhere. Far behind, in the village, the stepmother sat in her chamber, her face twisted with anger. Reports had reached her. The hunters had failed. The girl still lived. And worse, rumors spoke of a strange light that had burst from the child during the fight. The stepmother's eyes narrowed as greed replaced her anger. "So it is true," she whispered. "The power of her father runs in her veins. The fools tried to kill her, but I see now she is worth far more alive." She rose from her seat, her voice dripping with venom. "That child should have been mine to control. She should have bent her will to me. Instead, she clings to a human." The stepmother gathered her allies, men and women driven by greed and hunger for power. Promises of wealth and dominion poured from her lips. She told them the child carried a gift that could shape the future of their kind. Whoever controlled her would control that future. And soon they marched, following the trail Daniel and Liara had left behind. Unaware of the danger closing in, Daniel and Liara made camp near the edge of a ruined temple. The stone walls were broken, vines wrapping around them like old scars. At the heart of the ruins, a statue of an alien warrior stood, its face half buried in moss. Daniel chose the place for its shelter, not knowing its history. That night, as the fire burned low, Liara sat staring at the statue. Her voice was soft. "Do you think my father would be proud of me? Even with this power inside me?" Daniel looked at her across the fire. His answer came without hesitation. "Yes. He would be proud. Not because of your power, but because you are still standing. Because you choose to keep moving, even after losing so much." Her eyes shimmered. "And you? Are you proud?" Daniel's chest tightened at her question. He nodded slowly. "More than you know." But their quiet moment did not last. The sound of footsteps broke through the night. Dozens of them. The firelight caught the glint of steel as figures emerged from the darkness. At the front stood the stepmother. Her face twisted into a cruel smile as she looked at Liara. "Did you truly think you could escape me, little one? Did you think running with a human would save you?" Liara froze, her heart pounding. The voice of her nightmares had returned. Daniel stepped forward, placing himself between them. His voice was low, filled with calm defiance. You lost your right to call her family the moment you cast her aside. The stepmother's eyes flared with rage. She is mine. Her bloodline is mine to command. Hand her over, or you will not live to see another dawn. Daniel's stance did not waver. I will not hand her to you. Not now. Not ever. The stepmother laughed, cold and sharp. She raised her hand, and her followers drew their weapons. Then you will die with her. The battle began. Steel clashed, and fire roared as Daniel fought with the strength of a man who had nothing left to lose. Liara watched, her heart torn between fear and fury. She remembered Daniel's words. She remembered his promise. And something inside her stirred again. Her hands began to glow, brighter than before. The power rose, flowing through her like fire through her veins. She stepped forward, no longer hiding behind him. The stepmother saw the light and her smile widened. Yes. That is it. Show me your gift. Show me what belongs to me. But Liara shook her head, her voice breaking with emotion. It does not belong to you. It never did. This power is mine, and I will choose how to use it. The glow spread from her hands, forming a barrier of light around Daniel as he fought. Blades shattered against it, enemies stumbled back in fear. The stepmother's smile faltered, rage replacing greed. Daniel glanced at Liara, pride burning in his tired eyes. She was no longer just a frightened child clinging to his cloak. She was beginning to rise. The stepmother screamed in fury, her voice echoing through the ruins. You dare defy me? You dare stand against your own blood? Liara's voice rang clear, filled with strength. You are not my blood. My father loved me. You only wanted to use me. Daniel is my family now. Not you. The stepmother's face twisted with hate. She raised her weapon, ready to strike. But Liara's power flared like a storm, forcing her back. Daniel stepped beside her, his hand resting briefly on her shoulder. His voice carried both pride and certainty. You are not alone, Liara. Not anymore. The stepmother staggered, her forces shaken by the combined strength of human courage and alien light. Yet even as she fell back, her eyes promised vengeance. This is not over, she spat. You will regret this. And with that, she vanished into the shadows, her allies scattering with her. The ruins grew quiet once more, the echoes of battle fading into the night. Liara sank to her knees, the glow dimming, her small body trembling with exhaustion. Daniel caught her before she could fall, holding her close. You were brave, he whispered. Braver than you know. Tears filled her eyes, but there was no fear in them this time. Only hope. Only trust. She whispered back. As long as you are with me, I can be strong. And in that moment, Daniel knew the stepmother would return. But he also knew this truth: whatever came, they would face it together. The ruins lay quiet after the stepmother's retreat, but Daniel knew it was only the calm before a greater storm. The stepmother's greed had grown too strong to stop now. She would return, and next time, she would not come with only a handful of allies. She would come with an army. Daniel sat by the fire, sharpening the edge of his knife. His body still bore wounds, but his spirit did not falter. Across from him, Liara slept, her silver hair shining softly in the firelight. Her power had left her exhausted, yet her face looked peaceful. For the first time since her father's death, she rested without fear. Daniel looked at her, his chest heavy with thoughts. She was no ordinary child. She carried within her a gift that could heal, a light strong enough to shake enemies. And because of that, her life would never be free of danger. He knew it. But he also knew this: he would not let that danger take her. He had made a promise, and promises were the heart of who he was. The next morning, the sound of horns shattered the stillness. The sky darkened with smoke. From the hills beyond the ruins, lines of soldiers appeared, mercenaries bound to the stepmother. Their armor gleamed, and their banners flew high. At their center stood the stepmother herself, her face twisted with fury. Her voice carried across the plain. You think you can keep her from me, human? You think a wanderer with nothing can defy me? That child belongs to me. And today, I will take her. Liara stood beside Daniel, her small hand clutching his cloak. Her body trembled, but her eyes did not look away. Daniel placed his hand over hers. His voice was steady, calm, like unshakable stone. You are not hers. You never were. And today, we show her that nothing can break us. The soldiers advanced, blades shining. The ground shook beneath their march. Daniel stepped forward, raising his knife though it looked pitiful against their weapons. Yet his stance was tall, his voice thunderous. If you want her, you face me first. And I promise you, I will not fall. The stepmother sneered. Then die with her. The army charged. The battle was chaos. Steel clashed against stone. Flames rose from torches thrown into the ruins. Daniel fought with everything he had, his body moving faster than pain could slow. Each enemy that struck at him found a wall of fury, a man who refused to yield. Liara stood at his side. Fear coursed through her veins, but so did the light. Her hands glowed again, brighter than ever before. She raised them, and a wave of energy burst outward. Shields shattered, blades bent, soldiers staggered back in shock. The child they had been told was weak now blazed like a star. The stepmother screamed in rage. She drew her own blade, taller and sharper than the rest, and stormed forward. Daniel met her strike steel against steel. Their eyes locked, and in her face he saw only greed, but in his heart burned something far stronger. This child is not yours, he said, his voice steady even as their blades clashed. She is mine to protect. The stepmother roared, her strikes filled with fury. But Daniel held his ground, every move powered by his promise. He fought not only for survival, but for the small hand that clung to him, for the trust that had been placed in him. Behind them, Liara's power rose higher. Her body glowed until the light filled the ruins. She cried out, her voice breaking with both sorrow and strength. I am not yours! I am not nothing! I am loved! The light exploded outward, blinding the battlefield. Soldiers dropped their weapons, staggering back in terror. The stepmother froze, her eyes wide as the light wrapped around her. It burned not her flesh, but her greed, stripping away her strength. She stumbled, her blade falling from her hands. Daniel stepped forward, his knife at her throat. But he did not strike. His voice was calm, cold. You will never touch her again. The stepmother's eyes darted in fear. She turned and fled into the smoke, her broken army scattering behind her. Silence fell once more. The battle was over. The ruins stood tall, glowing faintly in the fading light of Liara's power. Daniel dropped his knife and fell to one knee, his chest heaving. Liara rushed to him, her small arms wrapping around his shoulders. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but they were tears of relief. You did not let go, she whispered. Daniel held her close, his voice low but steady. And I never will. Together they stood, looking at the horizon where the smoke cleared and the stars began to shine. Liara leaned against him, her heart full. For the first time, she felt truly free. She was no longer the child cast aside at a funeral. She was no longer the girl called a curse. She was a daughter chosen by a human heart that refused to abandon her. And as Daniel looked at her, pride filled his chest. Humanity's greatest strength was not its weapons or armies. It was the will to stand, to protect, to love. That was the strength that had saved her, and that was the strength that would carry them both into whatever future awaited. Hand in hand they walked forward. A human and an alien child, bound not by blood, but by choice. And in that bond, the galaxy itself would one day see the truth. Humanity's embrace was not limited to its own kind. It could reach across stars, across grief, across fear. And when it did, nothing in the universe could break it.